Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Red One, a absolutely bizarre new movie that, I don't know, it just seems to have willed itself into existence. Is it a fever dream? What is it? It's unexplainable. It is Red One, but I guess I'll try to explain it. Santa is real in this movie. Santa Claus really exists. And not only that, but there is a whole organization around him. There's a security team around him. He works in conjunction with the government. It's like a military operation to protect Santa, to send Santa out there into the world. And his head of security is The Rock. It's Dwayne Johnson as Callum Drift, which I guess is a great action movie character name. But unfortunately, Santa gets taken under Callum's watch. He gets nabbed by nefarious forces. They need to get him back at all costs. It's a couple days till Christmas. Christmas will be ruined if they don't find him. And so they need to turn to a unscrupulous character. And that would be Chris Evans as Jack O'Malley, who is actually the guy who helped get Santa taken in the first place. Because he's sort of this all-purpose hacker / tracker mercenary, and he didn't know what he was doing. He just helped these people find this place in the North Pole, and unbeknownst to him, that's where Santa Claus was. And now it's, kind of a buddy cop dynamic, because it's Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans having to work together. They don't get along. Can they get along? Can they work together to find Santa and save Christmas? This is obviously a sort of insane / ridiculous premise, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be a good movie. I think if they played it right tonally, and if they found a interesting sort of offbeat sense of humor, this could be something, pretty weird and funny. Instead, it's just weird and kind of there. It's really bizarre how straight they play this movie. They play it so damn straight. And it feels like they're trying to evoke kind of the mood of a Marvel movie. And I don't say that just because Chris Evans is in it, but just kind of being like, okay, we're doing like a cool action movie, and we have, some sense of humor here, but, we still want you to take the stakes as being real. But because it's such a ridiculous concept, it's like, can't we have more fun here, guys? Can't we actually have some fun with this concept? But maybe you shouldn't do it in the first place. There's a scene early on in this movie where we have Dwayne Johnson helping jacked Santa Claus, played by J.K. Simmons, the great J.K. Simmons, but he's helping him work out in the North Pole gym with all his weights, and he's spotting for him while talking to him about how maybe he's losing the spirit of Christmas. Maybe Callum doesn't connect to Christmas the way he used to, and Santa's kind of giving him some advice about that, while, again, lifting weights. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I just remember sitting in the theater. I didn't stand up and say that, but there was a part of me that felt I should. What are we doing here, guys? What's happening? The movie, again, there are jokes in the movie, and a couple jokes that land. I did laugh a couple times at things I was meant to laugh at. But most of the time, I just was kind of like, I don't get this. I don't get what you're going for here. And look, I am not the first to say this about this movie, even just from the trailers, but this feels like a fake movie, right? And I know this has happened a lot in recent years, especially with straight to streaming movies. And this isn't one. This is going to be theatrical worldwide. But this feels like a fake movie, right? It feels like Tropic Thunder, or any movie that has done the idea of like, here's a big studio, big star movie, and they're just kind of having fun with a ridiculous high concept. And that is what Red One is, except it's an actual movie that people spend a lot of money to actually make. Let me get out of the way here. A couple things I do like about this movie. And one is the concept of this organization that Lucy Liu's character runs, which is basically an oversight / secret government agency for mythological creatures and characters, because they really exist in this world. Santa's not the only one. And so her organization is the ones that are kind of like a watchdog organization, and they're protecting and watching out for, and maybe, I guess, putting a stop to the ones that need to be stopped. That is kind of a fun concept. Basically, it's kind of this X-Files / Fringe idea, but for mythological characters. And I thought, that might be a good series, right? That could be a cool series. And maybe if you had a series like that, you might do a Santa Claus episode as a quirky, fun holiday episode. But that's not what they did. Instead, that's just a background thing, that there's this organization that deals with these other creatures out there. Instead, this is a movie all about Santa. That's our in, is that Santa is real, and we should take that very seriously. and that everything's cool though. It's like, cool and high tech Santa. It's hip. It's now. This is Santa of the future, but it's so silly, and silly isn't bad by itself, but in this movie it just feels like it doesn't add up to anything. There's nothing about this movie that stands out enough or is interesting or fun enough or clever enough to make it worth sort of spending the time that this movie wants you to spend with. And by the way, it's so weird, the movie, that for a little while I guess I was kind of amused by the audacity of it, or just the like, what the hell of it. But it wears out its welcome. It felt longer than it was. About the final act, I was like, what is it? We keep going, and I was like, all right, I think I've had enough of Red One. And it wasn't a miserable experience. It wasn't like one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it was hard to just not have that feeling of just a waste of time for all the talent of the people involved. And that goes behind the camera too, because Chris Morgan wrote this movie and Jake Kasdan directed it. Chris Morgan's written a lot of Fast and Furious movies, and as ridiculous as the movies are, a lot of them are super fun and are a really good time. But this movie does not feel like that. And then Jake Kasdan, I mean, I enjoy the Jumanji movies he's done with Dwayne Johnson. I think those are pretty fun, involving movies in there, and they have the right goofy tone. And I wish this movie did too, but it doesn't. Jake Kasdan also directed Walk Hard, which is an absolutely amazing comedy satire. But yeah, so all these people who've done a lot of good things are involved in this movie. Honestly, none of the actors are giving bad performances here, and I think Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson have decent chemistry as a sort of bantering buddy cop duo. I know neither of them are technically cops, but you know what I mean. But it just also feels like a sort of third-rate duo as far as the conception of them. And they're both given their arcs, and Dwayne Johnson's character, he's cynical about Christmas now, and he feels like too many adults are on the naughty list, and that bothers him, and he's thinking about retiring from his job as head of security for Santa. And Chris Evans' character has been sort of a deadbeat dad, and can he finally connect with his son? I don't know, can he? But yeah, it none of it really resonates. It's not like it's emotionally connecting, and the fact that, again, it is so ludicrous. I wish the movie could wink more. I wish the movie could, kind of accept that it's so ludicrous that maybe we should, actually lean into that. I think the idea was probably, we're so ludicrous it'll be funny if we play it straight, but it's not. It's funny once in a while because there's an okay joke, but for the most part, it's just sitting there. There's a lot of times where I think jokes just completely don't land. I saw this movie with a paid audience at an advanced screening, and there was a lot of quiet reactions to what are obviously supposed to be silly, funny, uproarious moments, and they were not connected. I said I was going to name a couple things I liked about this movie, and then I only named one. I'll name the other one, which is Kiernan Shipka plays the villain, Grilla, who is this sort of evil ancient witch who's out to I don't know, I wouldn't say even stop Christmas. She has her own agenda. She's the one who took Santa, and there's a reason she's doing it. It's just kind of fun. That is fun. Just Kiernan Shipka playing this maniacal, super powerful witch fighting Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson is a cool thing, an enjoyable thing. Obviously, she has some experience playing a witch, but not in this type of movie, this scale of movie. And I did enjoy her getting to kind of chew the scenery in this kind of role. But yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough to kind of get you through. And there's so many things that kind of feel like an echo of something else. They have basically Santa Pym particles in this movie, where he can pull a toy car out of his pocket, Dwayne Johnson, and throw it and zap it, and it turns into a full-size car they can drive. I don't know. It just feels like it's trying so hard to be this like cool, quirky thing, but if you were going to do such an insane premise, I think you had to really come at it from a very different, very truly offbeat sort of sensibility. And instead, it seems like they were like, no, we'll actually make Santa cool. We'll actually make this like a cool organization who, all wear sort of like superhero type outfits. And they're red and green because it's Santa. Yes, I thought of Freddy sweater a lot. I mean, I have Freddy right over my shoulder, so I'm thinking about Freddy all the time. But yeah, it just exhausted me by the end. For what it's worth, by the way, in the elevator afterwards, someone asked me what movie I watched. I said Red One. They said, how was it? I said, but this other girl said I thought it was great. So she would disagree with me, and I guess other people maybe in that theater would too. But yeah, it's a fake movie, man. It's a weird era of the fake movie. Of again, this all these streaming movies that have felt like this, and the fact that Dwayne Johnson already starred in Red Notice, which is kind of the epitome of that type of movie, of a movie that they spent a fortune on to get all this big talent, but then didn't actually have a great center to it to actually build it all around to have these people actually do something interesting. Red One is just the holiday version of that, just hey, look, we got all these people to make this insane action adventure Santa Christmas movie. What end? To what end? You can have there's a lot of great holiday movies out there. There's a lot of strange oddities of holiday movies, and Nightmare Before Christmas and other ones that have taken a different tactic to how you approach something like this. But yeah, this felt like a sketch, or like I said, an episode. It could have been a good episode of a TV show, right? Like when with the onus of it being the weight of it trying to be an entire movie, that this is this is the entire concept. It is not enough what they've done here to feel like a worthy endeavor. But here it is. It's going to be in theaters ever. Actually, it's already in theaters, I know, overseas in a lot of markets, but it's going to continue to expand and open in America this coming weekend. That is Red One. Maybe it'll be everyone's new favorite Christmas movie. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't think it will be, though. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on Red One. If you could like and subscribe, that would be great. Take care.